Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. I'm Maria Casillas, joined here by my incredible co-host, Cody Sizemore. We're here today to talk to you about some really incredible things, as always. Before we jump into our topic for the day, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us, not only today, last week, the week before. Maybe you've been with us for the entire 200 episodes that we've been doing this. I almost said 2 years, but it's been beyond that, which is just still a little bit crazy to me. Regardless, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have been here every week, we do endearingly call you our every weekers, and we welcome you back. And we encourage you to share this episode and this podcast with anybody who you feel would get some really great value from it. All right, Cody, how are you today?
I'm great. Yeah,
That's
feeling
amazing.
good.
That's
Things are
good.
good.
That's great. Great. I'm so happy to hear that. So I know that you wanted to chat a little bit today about lead magnets, and I did not share that at the top of this, but I think that this is something we have spoken about in the past. It's been quite a while, but you know what? This is something that's so important that I think it's really a good idea to bring it back up. So I'm glad that you wanted to talk about that today.
Yeah, it's something that, like, I know that we've talked about before in the past, like you mentioned. But it's something that I think is really important because at least in my business and the way that I kind of like run things and handle things, I utilize lead magnets every day in different ways for different purposes, but they're a pretty pivotal part of how my business runs, you know?
Mhm.
So, I just thought like, hey, if there's a newer coach out there or there's someone who's been coaching for a little bit of time, but, hasn't had this worked up quite yet, or maybe they only have one or two, it'd probably be a good idea to just like talk through and brainstorm a little bit and see what kind of comes from it.
Yeah,
So
I think it's a great idea. And, like most things in our businesses, we need those refreshers. So even if you're not new, you're going to get something new out of today, unless you have the memory of an amazing, book, then yeah, let's do this. I think it'll be great. I think before we talk about like how we can use them, let's go through a little bit about what you even mean by lead magnet. It just kind of sounds, it sounds obvious, but let's unpack that a little
what
bit.
is a lead magnet?
Yeah,
Right.
what is it?
Yeah. Yeah. So a lead magnet is it's something that you build. So it could be a tool, it could be a resource, it could be a number of things, but just something that you build that you put out there that's can be applied to anyone really in like a specific category. So for example, like if someone wanted to learn about different strategies to pay down their debt, then you could send this thing to anyone who is trying to pay off debt, whether it be $5,000 of debt, $50,000 of debt, $500,000 of debt. It applies to everyone, kind of thing,
Mhm.
right? But it's like a freebie. It's like a free tool or a very low cost tool or resource, or checklist or whatever it might be, that just kind of helps people get their gears turning a little bit, to kind of get them started with something like that first step, right? Like it's not something that you want to have fix the problem per se, um, but more so to get them started with it. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, of course. So, I'm going to point out the obvious, if I may. I'm just going to break down the word lead and magnet just real quick
Sure.
because
Yeah.
for a very specific purpose. We're actually trying to attract, right? That's what magnets do. We're trying to attract leads. So I want to share that because a lot of people might think, well, I want to attract a full-on client. And I want you to understand that is part of the process, but that's not what we're after quite yet. Like this is the first step in a longer process, if that makes any sense. So what
Mhm.
we're doing is we're just trying to bring in a lead. And sometimes that lead might have originally been cold and maybe now we're going to make it a little bit warmer. But it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a hot lead. And I think that's what you're kind of alluding to there, Cody, when you say this doesn't solve the problem for them. We don't want this to be where, we feel like they have to think that they're in a one-on-one session with us and that their problem's going to be solved. In fact, that would probably keep them from hiring you since
Correct.
they
Yeah.
don't have the you're right, they don't have the need anymore. But what you wanna do is give them enough of the information that not only are they attracted to the title or the content, but the content is helpful enough and you enough that they want to do that with you. So I just wanted
Mhm.
to throw that in there. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's something towards like you want to give them enough value that it's attractive to them and that they took something away from it. But then after they've gone through it or they utilize it, they then ask themselves the question, what's next? Right?
Mhm,
And that
mhm.
what's next is what the lead magnet's really for, is
Yeah.
to then, hopefully get them on a phone call or, whatever it might be, kind
Yes.
of thing,
Yep.
consultation, right? And there's a lot of ways that you can utilize those lead magnets in order to do that. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that today, and I think it might even make sense just to make a completely new episode for that as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe we talk about that next week too. But yeah, that's kind of the whole point of like what a lead magnet is, right? And I think that there's even layers to the different styles of lead magnets that you can have. So, um, cool if I just kind of run through a couple examples.
Of course.
Okay. So, I mean, this could be something that's a little bit more involved, like a pre-recorded, 30, 45-minute like webinar kind of thing, right? So we've talked about this before in the past about how I kind of like run some Facebook ads and stuff like that. It's all centered around that lead magnet. It's a 45-minute webinar, right?
Mhm.
Um, and, that's probably one of the bigger ones that you could do, and it's also one of the more valuable ones that you can do. So that's why, like, above all other lead magnets that I do have, that's the one that books more calls than any
Mhm.
of them because it's
Mhm.
the most valuable one, right? So it can be a big production like that. However, it doesn't need to be a big production like that, either, So it could be something as simple as like, um, your your 3-step budgeting checklist kind of thing, right? Like, so this would be something for someone who wants to learn about how to build their first budget kind of thing, right? It could be um the uh every realtor's every realtor's hidden secret, checklist or whatever it might be, towards like a
Mhm.
home buying kind of thing, towards like
Mhm.
here's what you should know about home buying. Make sure you know this, know that, know this, know that, so on and so forth. It could be a Christmas gift and giving tracker kind of thing to help people stay within their Christmas budget. It could be uh, some tips around paying off debt. So it could be something, to where like you explain the debt snowball or whatever it might be, so that it
Mhm.
could be a number of things. But again, the whole point is just to give them enough to where you're educating them. You're giving them a couple like small action steps to get the gears running. But then there's always going to be that, well, what next kind of thing. So for
Mhm.
example, with that budgeting thing, maybe you tell them like, hey, look back at your transaction histories, see what happened, refine it. And then, maybe you give them even the budget sheet, right? But that's only part of the battle, as we know. Like you could give someone a budget sheet and they could put numbers in it. But then what happens after that? They usually don't do anything with it. Right? So,
Right.
so like, well, what's next in the sense of like, okay, so I know where my numbers are at now, but now I need to know what's the best strategy to pay off this debt. Or how do I hold myself accountable? Or how do I hold my spouse accountable? wherever it might be. And that's what kind of is the what's next kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing that I wanna point out is that you give, several different options and ideas, and they all were in a different category. So you had, like, real estate, and you had, debt and
Hmm.
other such things, and, so FYI, you guys, when you're doing this, just remember that that's information for you. So, I mean, I know, Cody, you haven't said this yet, but I know you will, that part of the exchange for this quote, unquote, "freebie" is that they're going to give you their email, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so when that exchange is made, you can very well go into I'm losing the word, but your customer service management, your CRM,
CRM. Yep.
and then actually like make different categories, if you will. So if somebody responds to your real estate one, you'll know that they're actually wanting to have help with a home buying experience. The reason for being able to kind of narrow that down a little bit is because you are not going to just give them this little bit and then leave them stranded. You want to cultivate a relationship with them. And that's why it's just this little thing is just a little magnet to bring them into your world, but some of the value that they're going to receive from you, especially if you just give them like a little free checklist thing, it's not going to be that valuable for them. They could probably find something like that anywhere on the internet, but you're going to utilize that um, permission from them because they've given you permission to engage with them when they give you their email. You're going to try to use that to cultivate a relationship so they can see a little bit more. And if you are able to break that down into those different categories, now you're not saying the same thing to everyone on your list. You're saying something to them that relates to them.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm actually really glad that you brought up this this idea of around like the CRM stuff, because that's where I
Hmm.
actually was going to go next. Is basically just say like, in order to have a lead magnet, you do need to have some sort of structure around, being able to deliver these automatically to people when they sign up for it. So, and also collect their information too. So, I mean, the
Hmm.
process would be like, you throw out this email or you throw out a post online or whatever it might be, promoting this lead magnet. And then if they're interested in it, they would click a link that would bring them to a landing page talking about that lead magnet, to where there would be a button on that
Hmm.
page that says, get now, or, you know, I mean, something like that, right? Like get it now, learn more, whatever it might be. To which then it redirects them to a page to where they can put in their name, their email, and I would highly recommend their phone number as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
And then once they submit that, then it automatically gets emailed to them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That way it's all automated. Anyone can sign up for it at any point, and it's in their inbox instantaneously. But then you also have their name, their phone number, and their email, which is going to be good for future use, because then you can, do more email campaigns and different promotions and stuff like that and continue to nurture them. But also, I think that the phone number is really important, and this is where I think we can definitely have like just a whole other episode around it. Is that you
Hmm.
can then also just start talking to them, you know,
Yep.
and having those conversations. And one thing that I'll even say, I'll give this like a little preface for this next episode, is that you can stack your lead magnets as well, which is something that I utilize quite a bit, and is something that kind of takes someone from being like a cold lead to where maybe they sign up for like, your webinar and they're
Hmm.
still kind of cold, but then they get a little bit warmer. And then, you try and reach out to them and they're still like giving you the cold shoulder because they're still kind of a colder lead, right? And then you kind of like say, hey, I also have this thing if you want it.
Hmm.
And then they're like, ooh, that also sounds good too. And then they say, yeah, I'll take that. And then they start warming up a little bit, right? And then you start that conversation, and then bam, get them on a phone call and blah, blah, blah. So again, we can talk more about that. But
Hmm. Hmm.
um, but yeah,
To Yeah, I was gonna
Go
say
ahead.
2 things come up for me when you say that, and I like to try to put myself in the seat of the audience for a second and feel what they might be feeling. And one thing that I feel when I do that is, oh my gosh, I need more than one of these things. I need to have several of these things. I
Mm,
need to, do all of it so I can build and okay, slow down and just realize that Cody starts with one
mhm,
and then uses that, but in the meantime, allows another one to be created and then continues to create. And the flip side of that, which is my number two thing, is that you don't ditch the old ones just because you have new ones now.
mhm,
So continue to let those progressively get better, progressively build up, and don't ditch them. Keep them in your back pocket because even if you've got a really solid webinar right now, and that's what's bringing in the majority of your stuff, you're actually able to utilize those other littler ones that you had along the way. And those are just continual value adds for those potential clients.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you can start with one, but you can really build as many as you want. I think that, I'm trying to think about how many I even have. I don't know about an exact number, but I would imagine I probably have like 10 or 15 different ones that I've built over the last several years.
Mhm,
The one thing that I want to caution on is that while it's good to have that many, and because, you have essentially one for every person that needs something kind of
mhm,
thing.
mhm.
So you can, give them value no matter what they're trying to work on kind of thing. That's a very valuable thing to have. Um, However, I want to caution with saying that you shouldn't put so much time in developing these that it actually keeps you away from actually putting yourself out there,
Agreed.
and actually having these conversations,
Yep,
right?
and that's actually why I brought it up. I'm really glad you stated it that way, but I
Okay.
brought it up because I don't want people to think that they need to develop all of these before utilizing what they have and
Yeah.
actually getting started. I think the other piece of that is that you've got, a dozen or so. And what you said there was that you can, if you have something that will help, different levels or different people in different situations. I don't know this to be true, but I'm going to guess. When you created those, did you create them out of thin air or did you create them for a client who needed something in a particular moment?
That's a good question. Um, I would say that it's a little bit of a mix of the 2.
Perfect. Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah, I would say that maybe earlier on, it was ones that I kind of created just because I was
Mhm.
like, "Well, I just know that, like, people are wanting
Ooh.
this, that people are
Mhm.
struggling with this," right?
Mhm.
But then over time, maybe I saw a trend of people saying, "Hey, I'm curious about this. I'm curious about this," or "I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with this." To which then I then said, "Okay, well, let me just create something because it seems like a lot of people are dealing with this,
Yeah.
and now I have it."
Yep, that's exactly what I assumed that that was gonna be your answer, because when we see a need, we tend to just as coaches, we tend to fill that need, and what you were able to do is you saw trends with people who are already in, then you filled that need and realized, "This is something that I can then put in my back pocket." So you got paid to create it. That's why I'm bringing that up because you already had clients who needed that thing, and so you created it for them. You're being paid for that. Now it's something that you can use as a freebie in a different capacity for future leads. So
Mhm.
yeah, this is a process, you guys. That's the whole point of me sharing that is that this is not intended for you to go, oh my gosh, I need all of those things. Now I can't even start. Yes, you can. You can start with one and
Mhm.
then have the conversations that we'll talk about next week.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that the last thing I'll say is that, and then I think that it will probably be good for this episode. But I'm actually really excited for next week because I think that we're gonna have really good conversations around that. Um, but probably the most important part of building a good lead magnet that attracts people, it makes them actually want to sign up for it, right?
Mhm,
Would be the title.
mhm. Yep,
Like, probably more important than the actual, like, information that's in there
which is
is
hilarious,
the
but
actual title,
yep.
right?
Mhm,
So, think about it like this, I've kinda found like a good, I don't know if you want to call it formula or something like that, but essentially like think of it as the beginning part of the name would be something numerical, um, that's easily achievable. So for example, I said things like the 3-step,
Mhm.
or for example, I have one that's around, getting gears moving around paying off debt, and I call it the 1-day debt-free toolkit, right? And essentially the idea is like you can become debt-free one day at a time, right?
Mm.
But the title is 1-day
Mhm.
debt-free toolkit, right?
Mhm.
Um, or my webinar is Master Your Money. Who doesn't want that? 5 simple shifts to rapidly eliminate debt and amplify wealth, right? So it's like
Mhm.
that small, achievable, numerical thing at first, and then it's followed with the topic that you're on, which would be maybe like debt free, rapidly eliminate debt, and then followed by like amazing outcome, right? Um, Amplify your wealth, whatever it might be, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
small, achievable, numerical thing, topic of discussion, and then amazing outcome. If you have that kind of like formulaic approach to titling your actual lead magnets, it's going to go a long way for sure.
Yeah. Would you say that you have typically titled them before creating them or
Yes.
vice versa? Mhm.
Yep. The title actually comes first for me. That might be different for other people, but for me, I think that it's like if I'm going to put time into something, I want to make sure it's worth building, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and I want to make sure that whatever I build is then also reflecting the name as
Mhm.
well,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I think for me, it's mostly that. It's usually an idea first and then the title so
mhm,
that the specific content can then relate back to the
yep,
title. So,
yep, exactly. So, cool.
very good.
Good
Well,
conversation.
yeah, and I look forward to building it out a little bit more next week and just really kind of figuring out once we've got this league magnet and we're able to get it out there, what do we do with it when people start magnetizing to it?
Hmm. That's right. That's right.
Okay, very good.
Awesome.
Well, you
Well,
guys,
thanks.
thank you
Thanks
for
for a good conversation, Maria, and also thank you for listening today. Hopefully today was valuable. If it was, do us a favor, leave a rating or a review, share the show, whatever it might be. And hey, if you even want to if you build up a lead magnet and you want some feedback on it, or you want to do like a little bit of a humble brag, good place to do that would be our Facebook group. So join in there. It's called the Financial Coaches Community by New Money Habits. Share your ideas. Share your product, the lead magnet itself, and we'll definitely give you some feedback and some encouragement as well. So, with that being said, go out there, build them, and they will come. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching.